Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic podcast. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports' Ryan McDonald. Ryan, how's it going? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Dan. A good result for Celtic at the weekend. Obviously, we covered the game yesterday. We had a reaction episode as well, and there's plenty to talk about.
There is indeed. There's plenty to talk about, and I think probably the best place for us to start is indeed Rugby Park. I'd kind of thought that, like most visits to Rugby Park in recent years, that this was going to be a tricky game for Celtic, but it was anything but. To be honest, it was an absolute romp.
Yeah, I think I was discussing this with Mick afterwards and a few other people. I think I struggle to recall a more complete performance from Celtic over the last 12 months at least. Definitely last season, they were so patchy. But, they were outstanding yesterday. Everything just seemed to click. Obviously, Kasper Høgh getting off the mark after 63 seconds to open his goal account and then scoring a hat-trick before half-time was obviously outstanding. So Benjamin Nygren I thought was excellent. Arne Engels, one of his best games in a Celtic jersey. Hopefully it won't be his last. Wee bit of a concern with Alistair Johnson coming off with a slight knock, and then obviously conceding that goal. I felt sorry for Vinny Sinisalo. He was desperate to keep that clean sheet, but Celtic were just caught sleeping, and Kelly scored a consolation. But look, 5-1, and you look at the results that transpired later in the day. Obviously, Ibrox Rangers losing. Celtic have now got a 5-point lead over Rangers. They've got, obviously they've got goals on. They've got a +5 goal difference at the minute as well, and that's only going to grow. And you've got a £11 million goal machine like Kasper Høgh up front, and obviously Camilo Girani, and obviously they're looking at more reinforcements. So, look, there's been a lot of negativity surrounding Celtic. Aside from the heroics of the final weeks of last season, there's been a lot of negativity surrounding Celtic, and for best part of a year now. But I thought really that was a performance that I think Martin O'Neill would, watching from his sofa as he recovered for obviously that small procedure midweek. I think he would. I think that was just what the doctor ordered for him, and I thought, everything just seemed to click for Celtic yesterday. It was a truly outstanding performance, and like you said, Dan, Rugby Park's a really tough place to go. I know they just laid their new £1.5 million state-of-the-art grass hybrid turf, whatever you want to call it. They ripped up the plastic, but regardless, it's still a tough place to go. And I thought Celtic were just rampant, weren't they? They were outstanding.
Well, on Kasper Høgh, I wanted to get your take on this, Ryan, because you were at the game, you were at Rugby Park, you watched them in the flesh. Watching at home on the television, it looked to me like he's much more than just a poacher. He's much more than just this guy that's going to tap into the net. The 3 finishes he had, he couldn't really miss, but I thought his movement was brilliant. I thought his all-round gameplay, he was dragging defenders everywhere. And I was really impressed by his all-round play.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dan, because obviously his treble is going to obviously make the headlines. But like you say, I thought his all-round play was excellent. I've written a piece which you'll be able to read tomorrow, but I've made the point that Celtic have missed a focal point up front, excuse me, for quite some time. Obviously, Kyogo left in January 2025, but a player in the calibre of Kasper Høgh, the profile as well, he's a target man. He's able to connect play, and he's link up. He's already forming connections all over the park, whether it be in the wide areas or Benjamin Nygren through the middle. I think he's really quickly settled into life at Celtic in so little time. But his all round play was excellent. He was keen to. Some of his touches were sublime as well. And his first time passing, connecting play with Nygren or Engels, there was a ball he played first time out wide. I think it was to Alistair Johnson in the first half as well, which was exquisite. And then he turned, and there was another ball he played through. I think it was to Yang bombing down the right, which again was just sheer class. And you just that's the thing. You compare the quality of Kasper Høgh, who obviously is £11 million signing. He's top draw. He scored in Champions League for fun last season. It's a record signing. So when Celtic really want to make a point, a marquee signing, that's what you get for that type of money. You compare that to what they spent last season in their only striker, which is Shin Yamada, who he didn't even score, and it wasn't even a play that Brendan Rodgers wanted. You look at the difference in quality there, and the difference in class, and just the difference in the overall mood around Celtic as well. He's totally not only has he lifted the fan base, because the fans were just loving his new trademark peacock celebration, but they're chanting his name as well. But even just the team, I feel as if he just completely galvanised the team. I feel as if he's made everyone better. Callum McGregor made it clear last season that the club need to show ambition, otherwise he's off. I don't think Callum McGregor will go anywhere now, because I think that, as I said, I think Kasper Høgh is a real statement of intent by Celtic. It's the type of striker that Celtic have been craving for so long. And Mickey and I were debating it in yesterday's reaction episode with you, Dan. But I mean, I struggled to recall a signing quite like that since maybe Chris Sutton. A ready-made striker that's prolific and has got the profile and calibre and pedigree as he does. And Mick made the point that maybe Jan Vennegoor Mick made the point with Jan Vennegoor of Esslin, which is fair. So I mean, but there's so few and far between those type of players when they come to Celtic. And he's at a right good age as well, 25 years old. He's got the best years ahead of him. We spoke to him after the game, and he just came in with just a beamer. He was just delighted, and you can just tell his overall personality. Even his TV interview with Sky, he's just delighted to be a Celtic player. He genuinely wanted to be at Celtic, and you can tell. As I say, I think he's just lifted the entire place, the entire mood. And look, as I say, Martin O'Neill is on record in saying he wants quality over quantity, but how many times have we heard that? But I think this time Celtic could be true to the word. I think gone this summer at least are the project signings, which we've seen in the past, and obviously Marco Tilio, guys like that. I think now £17 million in two players has been well spent. And if and when the time comes, they're only in the door, but if and when the time comes to move them on, Celtic will absolutely make a fortune off them. So they've got two players in. The recruitment's been spot on so far, but they really need to. I think now you want more reinforcements in the door for this Champions League playoff. But that team that Celtic fielded yesterday was as strong as I can remember in quite some time, all over the park. I thought I'm even quite happy with Philly Sinisalo on goals. I know he conceded, but his distribution can be a wee bit ropey at times. But I think he's a safe pair of hands. He's got the number 1 jersey this season. I think he deserves it. He's bided his time, and I don't think he's really made a real high profile mistake since he replaced Kasper Schmeichel in between the sticks last season. So defence, Alistair Johnson, if you manage to keep him, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty, Kieran Tierney, that's a Champions League quality defence. Arne Engels in midfield, stripping his stuff outstanding. He's been like my £25 million move to West Ham. Then you've got the captain, Callum McGregor, Nygren, who's you're probably looking at another 20 goal plus season from him. Then you've got Duran, right? Yang, I think it was a bit disappointing yesterday, but if you bring Hassan in, an Egypt World Cup star, and then you've got Høgh up front, I mean, I think that's a top draw Celtic team. But you just need to get reinforcements, and you need to add to the strength and depth for the bench as well, because I'm pretty sure there will be some more outs before this transfer window shuts. But look, I think there's a lot to be positive about from a Celtics perspective yesterday, and as I say, I think that's the first time that Celtic actually scored 5 league goals since May 2025 when they trounced Aberdeen 5-1 at Pittodrie. Brendan Rodgers' second string team won that day. So that shows you, how long Celtic fans have been waiting for that type of performance. And I think if that's a sign of things to come this season, Celtic can go on to have a real successful year.
You mentioned the defence there, Ryan, and I want to come to that in a wee minute. You also mentioned Hassan and transfers. We'll come to that a little bit later on as well. But another couple of people you mentioned there, Benjamin Nygren, I thought he was brilliant yesterday. I thought it was arguably his best performance in a Celtic shirt. I actually think that Kasper Høgh, it sounds weird saying this about a guy who scored 21 goals last season, but Kasper Høgh is almost bringing the best out of him, if that makes sense. But you've got Camilo Duran there as well. What did you make of his performance on the right-hand side? And when everyone's fit, how do you fit the three of them in? Because it's been mentioned a few times by Martin O'Neill, by Sean Maloney, that Duran probably more suited to playing centrally. So where does that leave Nygren?
It's a good question, Dan. It's probably a welcome headache for Martin O'Neill as well, because I think he was starved of any real quality options last season. I mean, you look at the upgrades up front from Thomas Chavangara and Junior Adamu to Kasper Høgh and
It's quite the jump.
Camilo Duran. It's quite the jump. So, as I say, this is what Celtic have been crying out for at least the last 18 months since Kyogo left. But look, it's a headache. I thought Duran was a bit disappointing on Monday night. I don't, we kind of touched on it in the last episode, but I think he lacked a bit of confidence, a bit of swagger to get past these players and be a bit more direct. But yesterday, I thought he really relished the occasion. Obviously, Kasper Høgh will dominate the headlines, and rightly so with his hat-trick, but I thought Duran was unlucky not to score. You can tell he's really desperate to get off the mark. He smashed the crossbar in the second half with a terrific left-footed curling effort just in front of the Celtic fans. But he also produced a fantastic assist for Kasper Høgh, I think, to complete his hat-trick. Again, unmarked at the back post. I watched Duran and I thought, what's he going to do here? Is he going to try and be selfish and go for a goal himself, or is he going to try and pick out Kasper Høgh, who was watching, just looking at the back post, and he did it, and it totally evaded the keeper as well. It was an absolutely perfect cross, and obviously Høgh made no mistake. So I think, he's versatile, which is probably part of the reason why Celtic signed him. I think clearly he was identified as a replacement for Diaz Almeida, so they've been watching the Camilo Duran for quite some time, and he's very much like for like in terms of his versatility. He can play up front or he can play it wide. He would get bundles of pace. He's obviously a high energy player, relentless pressing, not quite in the mould of Diaz Almeida, who's a one-off phenomenon in that regard, but he is similar in some aspects, and I think technically he's so gifted as well. Some of his touches, we're talking about Kasper Høgh, but some of Camilo Duran's touches yesterday as well were exquisite. And I was just delighted for him that he managed to get a goal contribution as well, because you could tell he was a wee bit gutty when he gets subbed off the park that he didn't manage to get in the score sheet. But look, just like Kasper Høgh on Monday, I think the goals they'll definitely flow. He scored 3 and 3 in pre-season, so I don't think Camilo Duran's got anything to worry about. The big question is, as you say, Dan, is how do Celtic fit all the best players in the team? Yeah. And that might mean a tweak in the system. I think obviously Martin O'Neill, ideally, he's said he's been on record, as you say, Dan, he wants to play Duran and Høgh up front together. But then would that mean reverting to a 3-5-2 formation, which obviously Wilfred Nancy deployed last year? Or would it mean going 4-4-2 and you maybe have Hassan on the right, potentially Jota when he comes back in the next couple of months on the left? I mean, that'd be a frightening prospect of having those 4 up front. So I don't know. The problem is that not the problem. It's the thing is Celtic have got options now, and that's what they've badly missed. They were relying on Kelechi Iheanacho coming off the bench to save the day last season, and they were hanging the hat and Diaz Almeida producing a moment of magic. But now they've got players pretty much all over the park where they can step up and make a difference. And as I say, I think the only thing is strength and depth. They need to get more players like that in the door. Just to make sure they can properly compete across all 4 competitions this season.
What's your gut feeling? Do you think that Martin O'Neill will experiment maybe with it? I mean, we obviously know his first stint, the 3-5-2, was massively successful. Do you think he will try something like that?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, for me, I still think Duran, even if they stick with the 4-3-3, I still think Duran can almost play as a second striker anyway, because if a lot of your play is coming from the left-hand side, say, whether that's from Yang or Jota or whoever, or even Kieran Tierney, Duran can still drift in and make a goal scoring position for himself in the box and almost become that second striker. So he still drift in maybe 10 yards and play in that role. But obviously there's a demand in him obviously to play as a wide man and clearly produce service for Kasper Høgh in the middle as well. So look, ideally I think Camilo Duran would come in expecting to be deployed through the middle, and I think in the short to medium term he's just going to have to settle for being out wide in a minute. But I think maybe from October onwards, once Celtic get a settled team, perhaps they've got they've built up a rhythm and and consistency, then Martin O'Neill might be tempted to juggle the system. Obviously, there's going to be a heavy load of games this season as well, Dan. So you will be, Martin. That's why I make the point with strength and depth. Martin O'Neill will rotate the squad, so Andy will look to spring a few surprises here and then to shake things up. So I've no doubt there will be a opportunity for Duran and Who to play up front together. But I think it's all just dependent on incomes. That's the thing.
Another guy, Ryan, that I wanted to share some praise on was Arne Engels, because I don't know about you, people you talk to, but he seems to kind of divide the Celtic support a lot. I know it's probably due to the fact that he's got the big transfer fee. He was the record signing before Who came in. But I thought he was outstanding yesterday. He was all over the place. He obviously set up the first goal with a brilliant cross. I think if Celtic do lose him, as I think they probably expect to, he's going to be so difficult to replace. Like, just his legs, his athleticism, his deliveries. Honestly, I think people are maybe underestimating a little bit the impact he has on the Celtic starting 11 when he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he's, like you said, I never really quite understood why he's been such a polarising figure amongst the kind of Celtic fan base. Some of his performances here and there have been hit and miss, but I think you're guaranteed a 7 out of 10 performance from Engels pretty much every week. So he was quite his best on Monday night, but my God, he was excellent on Sunday just there. And like you say, I think that was one of his top performances in the Celtic jersey. I know I had a chat with Sean Maloney before the game as well, and he made it clear he really wanted to play. So I don't know, I'm a bit wary of that one, where that could potentially be his farewell appearance. If it was, what a way to sign out. He signed out with a bang, but ideally, Celtic really would like to keep Engels and Johnston for the Champions League playoffs, because replacing that quality for such a game of such a huge magnitude is not going to be easy. And as I say, whoever comes in, these guys need to hit the ground running as well. So Engels, I think he'll be sorely missed from that Celtic midfield when the time comes and when he does eventually move on. And look, I think it makes sense for him to move on at some point this summer, because he's in the final 2 years of his contract, and his value is only going to depreciate from basically here on in. Once you get to January, when he's got 18 months left, then his value starts to really plummet. So Celtic will obviously want to make the most money they possibly can out of him, and that ultimately has to come this summer. So they're well within the rights to hold out for £25 million, which is what they knocked back from Nottingham Forest in January. West Ham so far haven't come up with that sort of dosh, but there's I think there's interest from other clubs as well who haven't yet come to the table, but Celtic were hoping that they eventually do. And they're right to hold out for it. And it's the same with Alistair Johnston. Everton haven't reached an agreement with Celtic, and that, from what I understand, is David Moyes is now potentially looking at other options. So although Johnston isn't guaranteed to still be a Celtic player, Celtic again are holding out for what they believe is the right valuation for him. And for me, those two guys are top draw, as they demonstrated again yesterday. And if somehow Celtic can manage to keep him for this game against Lask, then I really think that could prove a huge difference in getting them over the line and getting them into the Champions League proper.
I completely agree. The last thing that I wanted to get your take on from yesterday's game was the defence. I thought they looked really solid yesterday. Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers, which is a pairing we actually haven't seen together too much since they've both been at the club. But as I say, I thought they were rock solid yesterday. But again, it poses the question, Liam Scales has been serving a suspension. What happens when he's back? Do you bring Scales back in? Scales, for me last season, for what it's worth, I thought he was arguably Celtic's best defender, maybe after Kieran Tierney. But I think he's really solid as well, Scales. I mean, what would you do if you're in O'Neill's shoes?
I think the jersey's Austin Trusty's to lose at the minute. It's unfortunate for Liam Scales. It's such a ridiculous rule, this carrying yellow cards into the new season and creating a suspension. I know Neil McCann has been a victim of that at Kilmarnock with Robbie Dees. He's been a huge miss for Kelly. He missed the opening 2 games, and obviously Kelly have been leaking goals for fun. So I think it's just a ridiculous rule.
Actually, it's so stupid, the rule.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So look, I think Liam Scales will be kicking himself as well, because it potentially could cost him a place in the Celtic backline for the foreseeable, because I think Carter Vickers and Trusty would be pretty decent. The only thing is, I mean, to be honest, I do wonder and I do fear that, I think, especially when Celtic 1-0 up on Sunday just there, Kelly did create a few chances and there was one or two scares. Austin Trusty actually cleared one just in front off the line to stop it from going 1-1 after a smash in the box. But so I think I do have concerns about that pairing potentially playing against a higher level, but certainly domestically at the minute, I think Trusty and Carter Vickers have been pretty solid. And Scales ultimately just needs to force his way back into the team. His time will absolutely come. I mean, Carter Vickers was obviously only back from a 9-month injury layoff with that nightmare Achilles injury, so he's not going to play every minute. And I thought, like you mentioned, Dan, I thought Scales, he's a bit of a whipping boy at times at Celtic, but I thought, aside from that disastrous Wilfred Nancy episode, I think that Liam Scales was one of Celtic's top performers last season. He's just not really a sexy name, if you like. But coming from, I think it was Shamrock Rovers was his old club that he came from. And, he's very much a no-nonsense defender. But I think he's absolutely solid. He's more than capable of being a first-team starter for Celtic. But at the minute, and I think Martin O'Neill really likes him as well. That's another point I'd like to make is Martin O'Neill was keen to point out last season about how crucial Liam Scales was for him, and he's one of the guys that he could really hang his hat on and depend on. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Austin Trusty, obviously, he was just back from the World Cup as well, and Celtic paid £6 million for his services, so he'll be on a decent whack per week as well. So, he'll be expecting to start. And as I say, he's not really done much wrong, so I think it'd be harsh to drop him, but obviously, it'll be a bit different this weekend coming up at Tannadice. It's a Premier Sports Cup match. It could be the first the first domestic trophy in the line this season as well. And Celtic will be keen to go all the way to the final and win it. So make amends for last year. So yeah, possibly Trusty could come in this weekend. Maybe give Carter Vickers a rest, especially that Champions League playoff a few days later. Sorry, Scales came in this weekend and give Carter Vickers a rest with that Champions League playoff coming later. But yeah, I think in a minute it'd be harsh to drop Austin Trusty.
I completely agree. I think, as you say, I think the jersey's his to lose. Right, transfers, Ryan, we're running out of time. I think the update we were discussing before we come on air, Hassim Hassan, is there any update, or is the update that there is no update?
It's just as you were since last time we spoke yesterday after the game, Dan. As far as I know, I reported on Friday that Celtic had were in talks over an initial £6 million deal, which could rise with add-ons. And I asked Sean Maloney yesterday after the game if there was any progress in that, and he said that he wasn't aware of it. I think Sean is assistant manager. He's kind of leaving it to Martin O'Neill and Michael Nicholson to deal with the kind of transfer negotiations. But look, I think ideally Celtic would absolutely like Hassan in the door this week. There could be a magnitude of reasons as to why it's not progressed much over the last 48 hours. There could be visa issues, there could be contract issues. There's so many reasons. But I think Celtic are confident of getting that one over the line, and yeah, Martin O'Neill would absolutely love him in the door for this weekend. And I think ideally that would be, ideally they'd want him in as well to give him a first taste of playing for Celtic this weekend at Tannadice, and then, he'll probably end up starting against Lask in the Champions League a few days later. So rather than throwing him right, into the deep end right away. So yeah, definitely Celtic are progressing in that one, and we'll need to see how that one pans out. And obviously they're looking at other positions as well. I think they'd like a central midfielder in, at least one, ideally two. And clearly they need a left back as a deputy to Kieran Tierney, who, by the way, I thought was outstanding yesterday as well. He's really looking at a Rolls Royce of a player at the minute. So yeah, there's plenty of business still to be done, but Hassan is the one that they're working on at the minute.
By the way, I completely agree about Tierney. I thought he was brilliant against Dundee as well. And to anyone that doubted him last season, I think they'll be made to eat their words now, because he looks like he's really back to his best, and it's just amazing that Celtic have got him, to be honest. A player of his quality, so I think just enjoy him while he's there, I guess. Before we finish, Ryan, you mentioned the fixtures that are coming up. I think I've got the fixtures here, roughly Celtic's next month or so. Dundee United is next in the League Cup. And then, of course, after that, it's Lask at home. I don't know about you, but I never like having the home leg first, if you know what I mean. I'd always rather go away from home, try and get a good result, bring the opposition back, if that makes sense. But I guess it is what it is. And then you look at all this, right? Just later than these fixtures, Celtic on the 20th of September, they play Rangers. And if you look at it now, the league table, Celtic are already 5 points clear of Rangers. Already? They only played 180 minutes. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It was Rangers haven't got off to the best of starts at all under Derek McInnes, winless now in 3 games. But I'm sure Celtic and definitely Martin O'Neill and Sean Molly, they'll be concentrating their own affairs. But you can't help but look what happens across the city, and Rangers, you'd expect, would be Celtic's closest title rivals this season. Hearts are going through a real period of transition, and they've obviously had a rough start in Europe, but obviously they had a resounding win yesterday at Tynecastle, which will probably have boosted the mood there. But I mean, the thing is, that's the thing. I think Celtic have got a real opportunity now to press ahead, and if they can continue adding quality additions like they've done so far, then there's every chance that they can steamroll this league this season. There really is, because I expect Rangers to add some more faces. I think the Andrew Kavanagh said at the shareholder meeting today that they're looking to add between 3 and 5 new signings before the end of the window. But again, it's a massive turnover of players there, and I think Celtic have still managed to retain, although they've lost Dyson and they've lost Kelechi and Achel, and obviously Kasper Schmeichel to retirement. I think the key is Celtic have managed to retain the core group of players. They've still got Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's just back from injuries. Been at the club for 5 years. He knows the club's inside out. Kieran Tierney, who's a Celtic diehard. Again, it's come through the system. Callum McGregor, Cyril winning captain. So I think they've, and obviously we're talking about Liam Scales and Luke McCowan, even guys like that have tied, been tied down new contracts and committed their futures to the club. James Forrest in the background as well. He's still a hugely useful option, a squad option, and valuable member of the dressing room as well. So, look, for me, I think keeping these guys is paramount for Celtic, and which is why they've been, a lot of these guys have been tied down new deals over the last 3 to 6 months. So I think that can be the difference for Celtic. They've still got that familiarity while also looking to add genuine quality. And Rangers, I think is it 9 new players that have come in the building now?
9 new players so far, right?
So they could end up with more than around 14 new players. They could end up with an entirely different squad, and they've obviously lost their captain James Tavernier over the summer as well. So they've got a new manager. So I think this is really down to Celtic. I think if Celtic can keep up the feel good factor, progress in the Champions League, get back in with the big boys there, and really motor on in the transfer window, then I can see Celtic winning the league quite comfortably this year. I can't lie, Dan. What about yourself?
No, I completely agree. I think, to be brutally honest, I know there's only 2 league games going, but you can't give this Celtic team a 5-point head start. You just can't. Celtic are going into that first Old Firm game potentially with a chance to go 8 points clear. I mean, that's mad. I know it's so early. Anything can happen. We saw last season how mad the season is. I'm not for a second saying the league's over, but that's going to be very hard for any team to catch Celtic when you've given them a 5-point head start. That's
what do you think about Hearts? Do you think they'll mount a challenge this year, or do you think it's more a case of...
I don't think so. Yeah. I think by all accounts they were good at the weekend, really good, and I do think he has a good manager, Wouter Rankin, but I think for them, if they could finish third this season, I think they should bite the hand off for that, because consolidate that. I don't think they've got the squad basically to challenge for a... You think their whole spine was ripped out in the summer. Their manager, top scorer, their captain, their best midfielder. I think it'd be a lot for them to challenge. But look, who knows?
But yeah, as I say, I think Celtic, if they get the house in order, and if they do end up losing Engels and Johnson, as I say, they are quality, so you've got to bring in quality replacements. So a lot can change between now and September the 3rd, but the way Celtic looking just now, I mean, I looked at that team yesterday, starting lineup, and it's as strong as a starting lineup as I can recall in quite some time. So, as long as Celtic keep improving, then to be honest, I just can't see any other title winner this season. I think it's the Premiership trophy will be remain at Celtic Park.
Amen to that. And I think that's the perfect note for us to end this week's Record Celtic podcast, brought to you by NordVPN. Ryan, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Danny, man. We'll possibly do another episode later in the week.
Absolutely, I look forward to it. And thank you very much for watching and listening at home. We'll be back soon. Cheers.